You can't see the opportunities if you're focused on the limitations. Welcome back to #winning. Uriel Kim here, CEO and founder of Healthpreneur, and I want to share with you why you might be having a tough time reaching the dreams you've set for yourself. Start with a story. Many, many years ago when my kids were young, they were learning how to put on their seatbelts in the car. And they had this tendency to say, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great self-talk, which is going to lead you to becoming useless and building no confidence and self-belief. And so what I hopefully had them kind of ingrain into their brain was replacing I can't do it, which is limitation, with changing that into a question. And the question was simply, how can I do this? And it's a simple reframe that hopefully still sticks with them to this day, which in any case, when you take a statement that is negative and limiting, just change it into a question, because the question creates possibility. So now what or how can I do this is more about possibility to create an opportunity. So this shows up, and again, I come back to a lot of these principles and how they show up in potential selling conversations or coaching calls with your clients. You're talking to someone and they're like, I don't know, $5,000, there's no way I can do that, right? That's a limiting belief. That's a limitation. And all we're looking for, again, hey, is that 100% true? There's no way you can do this. And you'll see some people, what you want to be looking for is you want them to start thinking resourcefully. How can I make this work? How can I make this happen? This is more money than I have, or I have access to, or I think is, I was hoping to spend, but I see the value in it. How can I make this happen? When you're talking to people like that, that's what you're looking for, because it's very, very hard, close to impossible, to work with someone who's like, nope, can't do it, impossible. It's basically putting up a brick wall of limitation in front of them. And I've seen this actually because I review a bunch of our clients' calls, and I see this on Zoom with their prospects. Person's crying on the Zoom call, I gotta change this, I'm gonna die if nothing changes, I'm gonna lose my kids. $3,000? No way I can do this. I was like, wow, that fucking turned pretty quick. And that's exactly why that person's in that situation. This is the thing I want you to recognize, is that it's not that people don't have money and therefore they're in that situation. It's because they think like that. That's why they're in that situation. This is the big thing with this whole series of #winning. All of the external things in your life are a reflection of what's going on between your ears. So if you think in limitation and there's no possible way, guess what's going to happen is you are going to continually encounter things in your life that reinforce that belief you have. Call it confirmation bias, call it whatever you want. But you will continually be shown things in life that mirror your limitations. And you'll continually see them because that is what you're projecting in your mind out into the world. And that's the only reality you have. So you have to be open-minded enough, again, assuming you're here because you want to grow and get better, you have to be open-minded enough to question beliefs that don't serve you. Is it really impossible to do something? Is it is it really 100% impossible to do something? Depends what it is, right? So if you're a 3-foot, small person and you want to play in the NBA, okay, maybe a bit of a challenge. But the reality is the vast majority of people who walk this planet, they set a goal for themselves and a dream. And the first thing that comes to mind is they reduce the size of the dream. Instead of raising their commitment, they reduce the size of the dream because, well, I don't know if that's going to work. They start thinking logistically about how this is going to work because they don't actually think it's possible. So at Healthpreneur Live a couple of weeks ago, I had everyone write down how much money you want to make this time next year. And so they wrote whatever the number was. And I said, awesome. I want you to really internalize how that makes you feel. I want you to close your eyes for a second and really think about that and visualize how you feel with that amount of money in your bank account. And so they got to that state. And then I said, good, take your pen and add a 0 to the end of that. And all of a sudden, then I was like, cool. So walk me through, just talk with me about how you guys are feeling as soon as you wrote that number down. You literally wrote a circle, a 0, and it triggered an internal physiology that completely changed. By writing a circle on a piece of paper at the end of another circle. If you think about how ridiculous that is, it's crazy. Our whole physiology is impacted by writing another 0. And that's because we give a certain meaning to these symbols called numbers and what it represents in terms of money, which is, again, just another symbol of a feeling we want to have. So I said, listen, like, how many of you guys felt like even more excited by adding a zero? How many of you guys felt petrified, right? Really look at that as an opportunity to say, whoa, like, what did I just learn about myself? Like, this was possible, but this was impossible. Like, oh, fuck, there's no way I could do that. Cool, awesome, let's work through that. Because you'll only get to hear, and this is why I love coaching, is because I'm able to help people get more out of themselves than they ever would on their own. It's holding someone to a higher standard. It's not to say that making 10 times more money is, makes you a better person, but it's a thinking exercise that helps you stretch what you think is possible. And we all need coaches in our lives to not just like show us and tell us what to do. That's not the goal of it. It's to have people who believe in you perhaps more than you believe in yourself. It's to say, hey man, I see greatness in you, and right now you're playing small. And right now, after watching this video, I'm assuming that's you as well. You're a health professional, you're a coach, you're an entrepreneur. You have the desire to live a greater quality of life than you're currently living. And I really appreciate you watching these videos or listening to the audio version of these. And hopefully they've made a difference for you. And you still have to do something with this stuff, right? Because it's all nice and warm and fuzzy. You're in your car, you're going for a walk, you're listening to this. But the vast majority of times, most of people watching anything for free don't do anything with it. And so I really, really encourage you, like, there's nothing, I don't care if you work with me as a private client or anything. What I want you to do, and what any mentor would ever want from the people that they're getting mentorship from or providing mentorship to, is simply take action, is just do the thing. So I want you to really think through, like, where are the limitations in your life? And sometimes it's hard to see them because you live in an invisible cage, we all do, called our ego. And it's like conditioned over top of our real self. So when you think of limitations, one of the easiest things to think about is take an area of your life that you really want to improve and that you haven't been able to make improvements in yet. And just ask yourself, well, why do I think that's happening? What keeps coming up? And I'll tell you, like, for me, for a long time in my business, it was this idea that no one can do what I do as good as I can. And so what that meant was that I was reluctant to hire because I'm like, well, here's the thinking, right? No one can do what I do, right? As well as I can. Let's call it from a marketing perspective, which, by the way, let's start to unpack this a little bit. Okay, and I've actually shot another video about this around how to challenge your own beliefs. So no one can do what I do as good as I can. Let's say on the marketing fronts, because typically the business owner's strength becomes the business's weakness. And this was very, very true, especially in my first business. And it caused me to work way too much because I'm like, no, I'm going to do all the marketing. So is it 100% true that no one else on this planet is a better marketer than I am? The answer is obviously no. It's not true. There's many other people I know who are better at marketing than I am. Okay, cool. So is it possible? So now we're moving away from limitation into possibility / opportunity. Is it possible that there could be someone else out there who's a better marketer than I am and who could be a good fit to work in our company? And the answer has to be yes, right? Because there's 8 billion people on the planet. Now, not everyone's in marketing, obviously, but even if 0.00001% of those people were like in the realm of like strong marketing know-how, there's got to be some, I don't know where they are, but they have to be out there somewhere. And what that does is it starts to create possibility of thinking to be like, cool. So how can I, what can I do to start to get myself or put this type of opportunity in front of them? And so all we're doing here is we're just trying to challenge beliefs that don't serve us. There's no way I can make that kind of money. Really? Is that 100% true? Is it possible that other people who do what you do make that kind of money? Yeah, but they're taking advantage of people. Really? Is that 100% true? Do you know every single one of them and what they're doing with their clients? Well, no. So again, there's a limiting belief that's not serving you. You think that if you make more money, you're taking advantage of people, which is a belief that's keeping you playing small, stuck, and broke. So you can keep playing that story for the rest of your life, or you can shut the fuck up and change it. And I say that with all the love and compassion, but it's not a story that's going to serve you moving forward. Okay? All of this is you will be limited in your life by the limitations that nobody else other than yourself imposes upon you. Now, with a certain degree of compassion around that, the limitations you have are caused by previous experience, right? So past hurt or the past can very often inform the future. But the thing is, you can't create the future you want living in the past you don't want. So if you're living in the past where, your parents told you stuff or you heard stuff at school or in church or on the media, all of those things are now part of your subconscious wiring, your programming. And they may not serve you, right? Money doesn't grow on trees. People with money are evil. All this shit, okay? Those are just a couple examples. And there's many examples and all sorts of different things. Plus, there's stuff that you experience personally over time, right? You see repeated patterns over and over again, and they start to inform your viewpoint of the world. I've even had to catch myself with this, right? And I'll give you a good example. So since COVID, show rates across every coaching business, including ours that I'm aware of, have gone down, like dramatically, okay? Now, that is more or less a pattern that I've recognized. It's not an empirical truth, but it's a pattern. It's just a very large, unfortunate pattern. So if you have a call-based funnel, so people book a call to speak with you, no-shows, et cetera, have become a bigger issue. So before COVID, we're at 80%. After COVID, not as good. So it's very easy to look at that and say, well, this is just the way it is, right? And that's like, well, there's a certain sense of like hopelessness with that. Well, things can be better. Well, they can. Another thing that I've had to catch myself, and I'll tie this all together, is when I see people booking calls and they don't show up, etc. There's, for me at least, has been a tendency to start really talking about how people are flaky and all this bullshit about not being committed. And that's fine. And that might be true in some cases. If that thought starts to become a global belief that I now adopt, like at a very high level, my world will reflect that and it'll continue to show me what I believe. So if I really believe that people are flaky and they're not committed, etc., guess what's going to happen? I'm going to continue seeing people come into my world to reaffirm that belief because the world shows you who you are and what you believe. So obviously I have to recognize that belief and I'm saying, okay, well, is that 100% true? No. Well, maybe the truth is people simply want what they want, so they don't want what they don't want. Okay, cool. So if half the people or whatever percentages don't show up on calls, maybe they simply don't want what they want or what they say they want. Okay, cool. So what can I do to perhaps control that situation to increase show rate? Well, maybe I can be more clear in my messaging. Maybe I can have a better follow-up sequence that really educates and frames people properly before the call, right? So it goes from this is how it is, which is a complete limitation, and there's no possibility for growth, into is that really true? Probably not. Is it possible that there are other businesses that have higher show rates? And it's like, well, yes, there are. Okay, cool. What are they doing differently? And what is a belief that they have that I haven't adopted yet? And then what is the work that I can do or the things that I can start to implement that I have some degree of control over to move me in that direction? And I can promise you, if you take this approach to life, you'll be so much happier because you will get out of bed in the morning with some degree of like, here's the thing. If you don't have anything to look forward to, you're not going to want to get out of bed in the morning. And so sometimes it might just be like, I learned this thing yesterday and I'm excited about implementing it today. And that might be all you need to get you out of bed in the morning with a smile on your face and a hop in your step. Now that one thing might not do shit, but at least it's something you gave a shot to. It's like, you know what? Maybe this could do the thing. Maybe this could be the thing. And then it doesn't work. And then another thing doesn't work. And another thing doesn't work. And a lot of people here, they start to build up this baggage, right? Didn't work, become super skeptical, and they walk through life with that belief. They don't trust anyone. They're not willing to take any quote unquote risks because nothing has worked out well in the past, at least in the way that they framed it. And I want to let you know that like in my life, I've had 1,000 times more quote unquote failures than wins. Typically anyone who succeeds does. Even the best batting average of all time is 0.386, which means 6 out of 10 at-bats complete strikeouts. So Ty Cobb, best batting average of all time. Best batting average of all time in Major League Baseball. 6 out of 10 at-bats were complete strikeouts. So like you have to remember that you're not going to win all the time. You're going to try stuff, it's not going to work out. Great. Winston Churchill, my favorite quote is success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. That's what entrepreneurship is. Like, you just have to keep you get up in the morning, you're like, this is gonna be an amazing day. I'm gonna do this thing. It's gonna be great. And then shit. Okay. And then you go through a little moments of a dip and you're like, okay, cool. Like, tomorrow I'm going to do this different thing and it's going to be awesome. And it works kind of. And you're like, all right. And then you try something else. And I'm not saying like you're changing like your business. I'm just trying like little adjustments, right? Some things work, most don't. And it's the ability to go from those like nonstop without loss of enthusiasm. That's it. Like, it's, Mike Tyson, his quote is like, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. It's the same idea. It's like, this is going to be amazing. And then bam, actually, it wasn't amazing. And I've had this happen and it continues to happen. And I love it because it gives you clarity. The most important thing that I'm looking for is clarity. Because when I'm clear about something, I know that this isn't going to work. So now I can move in the opposite direction, or I can move in a different direction. I don't want to live in fog. I don't want to live in the world of like, well, maybe, I don't know. I would much rather test something and see how it all works out, because then I'll know. And that, like I've talked about this in a previous video as well, is striking while the iron is hot, making a decision while you know intuitively it's the right thing for you to do, even if you're afraid. Because the only way to have all the information is on the inside. And then once you're on the inside, then you'll have the clarity. So maybe it's clarity around a specific strategy or tactic or a mindset or an idea, or you might just get clarity around one thing that made all the difference. Like, I've invested in coaching programs, and I'm not like, obviously I've mentioned I've invested a lot over the last 14 years. I'm not looking for the whole A to Z. I'm looking for like the B. Like, I just need one idea, and sometimes that one idea can be looking at how the coach shows up in the coaching program or doesn't, or the community and how, like, who they are and how they're a reflection of the culture of the company that they're attracting in. It's not even like I have to go through all the trainings and be on the coaching calls. And like, for the most part, it's not about that stuff, at least for me. It's one nuance, one idea. And I never look at any of this as wasted time or wasted money, because it gives me clarity. And clarity is what it's all about. As I've said before, clarity buys speed. If you want to move faster, you have to be able to see what's in front of you. And the reason people move so slowly is because they're living in fog. They're scared to make decisions because they're focused on their limitations instead of opportunities. And because of that, they move very slowly, as opposed to just saying, you know what, I'm just going to make a decision, get this shit out of my way, get the fog out of my face so I can actually see the road in front of me. And it's like, cool, now I can put the foot down on the accelerator. So listen, your world, the future you have in front of you has limitless possibilities, but only if you focus on the opportunity and not on your limitations. I don't know you personally, but I think one of the things that could be holding you back in life and in business could be that you're overthinking things. This is probably one of the biggest things that I see holding people, health professionals, business owners back from getting closer to the goals they say they want.